exactly. That's just the POS thing's easier than the.
So what just happened?
No,
Oh, there we go.
select people. That's
Is this ready to go or not?
Yeah, it is. That's all good.
there.
How do you know? Cause it said
Okay, as long as it's ready to go. 'Cause it's
it was
time.
reporting, so yeah, let's do it.
Okay. I will call the Castine Select Board to order. First item on our agenda, additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
I have an addition. I would like to add to Library Board Chair Karen Lyons, under updates from boards. So perhaps right after the update from the Castine Merchants Association,
Okay.
please.
Anybody, Dan, do you have any addition?
No.
Our next item is signing of warrants. We have a general fund warrant in the amount of $40,731.75. I will move that amount.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Is there discussion?
Sure. There are 15 vendors on this warrant, and we paid 20 bills. A couple of the large bills were the Pine Tree Waste, which is our waste station, our transfer station bill that we pay, and municipal health insurance for all of our employees.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 We have a water warrant in the amount of $2,705.18. Is there a motion?
I'll move that around.
I'll second the motion. Is there any discussion? Dan, any discussion?
No.
Okay. Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Our next item is approval of minutes of previous meetings. We have 3 sets of minutes. The first set was for the public hearing on October 7th. I'll move that we approve that set of minutes.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Aye.
We have a select board meeting set of minutes for the same date, October 7th. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it. Is there any discussion?
That owns.
Okay, hearing no discussion, those in favor?
Aye.
Right? And we have a select board meeting of October 15th. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's clear the minutes. Is there any old business to discuss? Hearing none, we'll move along. New business. Our first item is update from the Castine Merchants Association. Matt, would you like to give us your update?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay.
Fabulous. Okay, so not all too much to update on from the CMA. We just had our fall October meeting on, I believe it was the 7th or the 3rd. No, it was on the 13th. But we would like to note some recent activity from the CMA. First of all, and I gave you guys all these notes before we left for this little vacation. The CMA is more active than in recent years. Our membership is up this year, largely because of our MAP project, which requires membership in order to be included on the MAP. Total members to date for 2024 is now 43. We just had a new member join this last month, which was EB's Sweets, which is the bakery that's in Compass Rose. We did see an increase of visitors to the CVC this year. So we had a total of 3,490 visitors in the 2024 season, which is an increase of 10% year over year. We also just elected new officers to the CMA. They are the same as last year, with me being president, Karen Coos being treasurer, and George being secretary. But Julia Gray has now swapped out for VP, replacing Lisa Lutz. And we also adopted new updated bylaws for the CMA. They had not been updated since 2014. We felt like there were some holes that were not covering all of the activities that the CMA currently provides. So it is inclusive of the general scope of responsibilities for all of the officers, as well as what the CVC provides for the town, and also an important code of ethics for members who are within the CMA. We felt like that needed to be voiced. Looking to the immediate future of this quarter, we're gearing up for our annual Light Up Castine holiday fundraiser. And all of the merchants are participating in a very concerted effort to reach a wider audience of donors for that fundraiser. So, for example, for the Pentagoet, we are sending out requests for donations to very loyal customers who come to Castine every year but might not be aware of this fundraising effort. Karen Coos is reaching out to a recent client of hers. Those sort of efforts just to broaden the scope of this fundraiser. We are also going to be increasing our dues to $125, up from $100, to help cover increasing costs. Updates on CMA marketing. The town walking map was successfully updated this year, and that extended to updating the town kiosk, which hadn't been touched since 2018, and also the visitor center receiving a new sign. Social media, print, and digital advertisements are very strong right now. We are still sticking with the same advertising lanes, which include the MTA, Bangor Daily, Summer Guide, visitmaine.com and .net, and special holiday ads that come out this time of year promoting Castine-specific holiday attractions. And we also completed a new formalized new member package. So whenever somebody actually joins the CMA, they have a proper package of information that is given to them, so that way they know what resources are at hand within the town of Castine. Any questions so far?
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Great. Just a couple more things. Some successes. Obviously, I just want to thank the select board and the town of Castine for letting us move forward with mobile vending this year. It was definitely a success this summer. We reached out to all vendors who came to our town for this last season. All vendors said that they would like to return for the 2025 season if we do approve moving forward with mobile vending. And they all said that they would like to return for more days. Stone Fox Creamery, which was the ice cream truck that was here, said that it was her most successful season to date, thanks to the strong interest of the Castine community. Starfire Pizza ran out of all supplies for the days that they were in town. And interest is already growing from other vendors, thanks to the word of mouth marketing from the vendors that were already here in Castine. One thing that was noted by Stone Fox in terms of improvements, if we can make this sort of thing, is she said that wastewater removal was a bit of a difficulty for her. I don't know too much about that, but if that was something that could be improved upon, she would be appreciative. And she also said that she noticed that there was a spigot that was closer to her parking spot in order to, supply water for each day. But that the one that was closest to the parking spots for the trucks had been damaged during the storm, it looked like, and had not yet been repaired. So she just kind of noted those two things. Also, a thing of success or anticipation, we did have representation from the MMA in our recent meeting, thanks to Kate Noel attending. It did sound like merchants are very enthused for the new training ship, and we're looking forward to forms of collaboration with the school, and are very willing to offer our buy-in and support for this new academy feature. Some quick challenges that we did note from our last season that we wanted to just raise to the select board. Again, this was something we mentioned in, I believe it was March, our last little stand-up. But we would love to see more coordinated town marketing and business development efforts. So we would like to voice our strong support of a new economic development consultant or advisor. Again, this was raised from the visitor center volunteers, that there still does seem to feel to be a lack of food options in town, especially for the lunch hour. And that's why, as we enter the 2025 season, we would like to voice our strong support of the renewal of the mobile vending town ordinance. And lastly, this is a small note from the visitor center volunteers, but parking for the volunteers was a bit of a difficulty. A lot of our volunteers are older, and they had to park quite far away from the VC during the peak summer hours. Somebody raised the idea of possibly soliciting a dedicated parking spot near the VC for those volunteers, if it's possible. But that was the last thing of note from our team.
Thank you very much. Very comprehensive report. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now we have a update from the library board.
Back here.
There you go.
Pursuant to the meeting with the Castine Preservation Commission, we were denied our application for the planned landscaping. We intend to appeal that. We're going to ask the select board, because we're on a par with the select board, we need your approval for contacting an attorney to be sure that we are reading the ordinance correctly, and that we feel that we will continue to have a valid basis for going ahead with the appeal. And then if that is not the case, we will be pursuing some other options that will satisfy, we hope will satisfy.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to pursue this through the hiring of an attorney? I will make that motion. Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
So
Just a minute, Mark. We're not to that part of the meeting yet.
Okay.
It seems to me that because the library board is a function of the town and vice versa, that the select board needs to support the library board in going to an attorney, because we are the ones that hire attorneys. So that's my piece on that. Dan, do you have any comments?
I mean, I think it's really important that we get legal counsel and we know that what our limits and responsibilities are. I wish it hadn't got to this point, but if this is where we are, this is where we are.
Okay. I'm gonna ask a vote. Those in favor? Aye.
Right.
Okay. We'll address your concern, Mark, later on. Next item on our agenda is approval of November 5th election clerks. We the positions that have been placed on the agenda for approval. Under the Republicans, Scott Vogel, Kathleen Eaton, Tom Comachado, Kelly Gualtieri, and Pat Bishop. Under Democrats, we have Robin Mott, Ray Noella, Ingrid Scott, Vicky Lee, and Jarlick. And as an independent, we have Alicia Anstead. I will move approval of that slate of people.
A second.
Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Right.
Aye. Our next item is the town manager's report.
Yep, I won't take up a lot of time. Hold on a second. So you know, the ad did go out. As I mentioned last week at our work session or a little meeting for the General Services Director of Municipal Buildings and Grounds. That's on the Maine Municipal Association website, will be in the Castine Patriot and the Ellsworth American, as well as up on Indeed where it's housed. The assessment for the assessment feasibility design study of the waterfront. It's finally posted up, I think, Thursday, so that's up there. I would say over a dozen firms have that RFP. They are now due November 8th at 2 p.m., which is a Wednesday, just so you know that. NBRC Westport Street grant, which took up a good portion of my time last week and partially the week before with Ina, has gone out. It's been submitted. Had a little issues, but luckily between me being in Augusta and figuring out what was wrong, we got that in at 3 o'clock, a couple of hours before it was due, of course. Let's see, hydrogeological study, Battle Lab, we discussed that at the last working session. So that outstanding PFAS question the board needs to answer. I will be working on the RFP, I guess it is an RFP for the preliminary design of a fire station. That I have a couple of samples and I know Sean also has one. I plan on doing that this week. I did also, there's a question during our work session when the engineers came back in, and by the way, I believe that's up on YouTube too, the follow up, because the engineers had some problems at our last meeting where the sound kept cutting out. Well, that info that he shared with you at the work session is now up there on YouTube also for others to watch. The question came up about when our PFAS testing was done last, which was actually in 21-22 last year. Currently, the utilities board asked that we start doing PFAS testing once a year. And just so you know, the PFAS testing is actually required to be put in once by 2027, and then 5 to 7 months later, a retest being done. If it's clear, the testing is not required any further, although the state is now working on some new testing rules. So that may change things, but we're planning on doing that testing within the next month or so, and then we'll follow it up 5 to 7 months later to satisfy the EPA testing requirements.
Just for clarification, that's of the water in the system.
It's the 3 different sources, so the 3 different wells. You got Battle Lab, Wadsworth Cove, and which one is the other one? British Connect. Thanks. So you have those 3. It's $500 per test, so it's about $1,500 to $1,800. They said with analytics
So
to do.
it's
Right.
gotta do, we should do it.
Right, but we are still going to continue to do that because the utilities board said they'd like to test that every year just to make sure it's clean. Just as a side note to answer that question. Let's see, YouTube streaming. I've been getting some questions, just so you know. I started rebooted the CPU behind me this time. I want to see what the sound is like. I think it may be the resources of it. This thing's using a lot of the resources up, so it sometimes will be some sound quality issues. So I'm going to see if this is good. Otherwise, I have 2 options to fix it. One is to move the CPU to the middle of the room or to update the RAM in the graphics card. So if you see the CPU, that's just me testing out, just trying to get clarity. There was some complaints at a couple of the meetings. It sounded like to quote, a room full of elderly people having a meeting.
But they were probably right.
And but if you put it on closed captions, you can actually follow along, but some of the stuff is hard to hear. Let's see, letters went out, as you know, to 13 different addresses on the water issue out back here. I've only heard truly from a couple of residents saying they'll have representatives there. That meeting is at 7 o'clock this Wednesday. We'll have to see how that goes. Solar study was supposed to be in last week. They told me it'd be in this week. But they just asked for some copies of our electric bills. So did they say it could be delayed further from this week, or just they'll still have it out this week? They just need the electric bills, Karen.
Want to look at the bills to see what our current usage was and also what our current rates were,
Okay,
just to make sure they have updated information.
all right, good. So hopefully by our next meeting, or even I'll give you that at the next work session if I have it. Just so you have it ahead of time to go along with this Wednesday night. There is the community forum for the Meet the Candidates night coming up from 6 to 8. Just to remember that. Roberta and I attended the legislative forum last Wednesday night in Ellsworth. I thought it was pretty informative from state police perspective and sheriff coverage perspectives of them explaining their manpower issues and how spread thin they are, especially the state police. I was amazed by how stretched they are, even though they've had the authority to hire more officers. Some of the other complaints were, of course, state subsidies coming in, possible cuts to that. Property taxes is always affordable housing, and even like MDOT and how they do their road repairs. Actually, support for roads that we share responsibility with the state. Anything else on that, Roberta, that we discussed? Yeah. MMA reached out to me today about, and I think Gordon, you might have got the email eventually about wanting to give a presidential search update at some point. I asked for clarification if they wanted to do that like at the next town and gown meeting, or if they wanted to meet with, myself and you, and then we'd report back to the rest of the board on what we found in case there's some confidentiality type of issues going on. So I need to wait to hear back from them on that. Einer will be working on T-Mobile grant again, and we discussed last week about trying to work in the main historic preservation office's recommendation of having a archaeologist or somebody there in case some artifacts or bones were found during that project. And I said, look, I think you could write that in as just part of the project. So that's what we're looking at doing right now. And I'll report back to you more about that as we move forward with that. Also, last Friday, went to a advanced general assistance workshop, I should say. It was really exciting. I stayed awake the whole time. Then just for my schedule, I don't have a lot on there. I think I've mentioned the 3 or 4 things. Don't let that, as I put a note there, just because it looks a little thin. I don't want you thinking that I have all kinds of free time on my hands this week. I'm actually looking forward to actually having some time to get some stuff done. So, and that's it. Any questions?
Well, with respect to the hydrogeological study about Battle Avenue and the PFAS issue, from what the engineers told us, that is not migrating at all towards our water supply.
Correct.
It's migrating towards the wastewater and then eventually to the ocean. And my own personal opinion is that we do not need to study PFAS at location because of where the water is going. And we don't have any control over the source of that PFAS. That's my own opinion. I don't know what you think. Please feel free to have an opposite opinion if you wish.
I think we need to understand more about what the testing would include. What would our plan need to be, or how would our plans change if we have the testing?
That's fine.
Let's see more information.
Hope you can get some more information on that.
Yeah, I'll find out about costs and what it would entail.
Dan? Sorry.
That's still here.
Ben, do you have any comments on that report?
No, I mean, I just want to be as thorough as possible. Once we get the final reports, I think that we should just, take some time, really examine it, and then we can have the appropriate vote after we've really had time to study the report.
Okay. And our next item is other business as required. Do you have any other business? Dan, do you have any other business?
I just want to give everyone an update. I am part of the county budget review committee. And a couple important issues is that the county has been hit with a unfunded mandate to upgrade parts of the jail and the police department. It's a big number. It's like it's over $1 million, and it's under discussion right now. So it's a very sticky issue because there are opinions on both sides that the state can't just delegate these unfounded mandates without other options for the county. So I just wanted to say that. And then secondly, there has been a lot of imbalance in pay amongst the different departments in the county, and they are working hard to make sure that the non-union employees are treated fairly like the union employees. And so I would expect the taxes are going to be going up from the county level, and it's going to be a combination of the jail and payroll increases.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Moving along, under communications, we have a communication from Maine Maritime Academy that appears to be relative to the bringing in of a Black Hawk helicopter for stationary display at Fort George. This would occur according to the information that we had on March 22nd, 2025. And I understand that Zach Sawyer is here to speak to this issue.
That's me. How was everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
All right, you can hear me loud and clear then. Good. That was a test. So this is part of Leadership Challenge Weekend, which is an event that MMA used to host year over year. It's been kind of let go since COVID, and we're trying to bring it back into its full glory. Typically, we would have, in the history, we've had the helicopter land on MMA's practice field, but that is now being taken over by construction for the Pier project. So we don't have access to that. So we're looking to the town to see if they would allow that Black Hawk to land for the afternoon at Fort George during Leadership Challenge Weekend. And for those who don't know, that event is all about bringing JROTC units from all around Maine and New England, potentially outside of the area, to participate in a range of events like swim test and group PT, land navigation, bridge simulation, drill competitions. And it's run by our cadets, our midshipmen cadets, but also we bring in the ROTC unit members from our split unit at MMA, Husson, and UMaine Orono. Bring them all together to put them through this competition. My colleague in the admissions office, Ross Cottrell, will be the main point of contact on the day. I'm here kind of just representing, I know the town. I'm happy to work in this capacity with everybody. The benefit to the town at this point is that Saturday the 22nd, when they're actually coming on to Maine National Guard to be the ones bringing the helicopter down, they are interested in opening the opportunity for the community to come and engage up at Fort George as well. They want to request that the event can go off in the morning, but the afternoon would be allowed to, and again, we're at the very early stages of this. There's 5 months of planning between now and then. But the idea would be to allow the community to come and check out everything that's on display up there. So it may involve other vehicles in the parking lot at this point, but really to get the ball rolling on this, they've sent us forward that paperwork that's in front of you right now, Gordon, to get a signature allowing the town to pass this forward for public space usage.
Okay. I certainly have no objection to it, but I can see right off the bat. Berta? Dan?
Just a question. I mean, I think it's a wonderful event. Are there any safety issues that need to be addressed? You know, I mean, I'm sure there'll be a lot of them, but I mean, I think we just want to make sure that the event is safe and that there's no liability on the part of the town.
So it will be a static display. There won't, engines won't be running. It'll land, it'll park, it'll be there. There's nothing running. And from what I understand, there used to be the Santa that would come in and park there as well. Am I mistaken about that? There used to be a helicopter that would come in up at Fort George also. In the past.
One question that I have though, that is, will you require the presence of emergency vehicles from the town?
That is not part of the plan as it's been put forward to me. If you would like there to be emergency vehicles on site, we can probably make that happen. And put that into the plan as a request from the town side. I have no problem with that. We'll plan accordingly based on what the town wants.
Randy, I'm gonna ask you what you think about emergency vehicles for this event.
Any helicopter that landed in Fort George in the past, we've had emergency vehicles there. Keep it, crowds come, kids come to see it. They fly over a couple of times and people run up and we have to keep people back.
Okay.
So yes, and that's the pilots usually recommend.
Yeah, we can incorporate that as all part of the student experience on our end too. So happy to engage with Randy and the town however they want to and make sure that our students who are on the fire EMS squad are there on site as well, just so that they get a little bit of experience in that too.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just ask that, Zach, can you just clarify where on this form they need to sign?
Yes, I believe it is section
Yes.
K.
Number 17 on the form.
17. I think it's number 4 on the form.
Four.
17 is a coordinating official.
Event site certification.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it would be item 4, number A, or letter A, B, C, D, E.
Got it.
We'll sign it in the right place.
Love it. I'll come down and pick that up whenever, and we'll have it on file, send it back over to Maine National Guard. But I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
It's a great project.
Now we're to the point in the agenda where we acknowledge members of the public. If their requests to then. Mark, you had.
Gordon, can I just jump in real quick? Before we start, since we're going to be having a lot of people speaking today, and we want to make sure everyone is heard, should we implement some kind of time limit today? Just because I really want to make sure that we can hear everyone.
Well, let's initially start with a 5-minute time limit. And if it gets out of hand, we can modify that halfway through the presentations from the folks in the room. So Mark, please.
Two questions. Derek, you mentioned the fire station RFP. My understanding was that the first RFP to go out would be for an owner's project manager. Is that what the RFP for the fire station is related to?
As I understand it, it's for a preliminary design of the fire station.
My understanding earlier on is that prior to doing any architectural studies, that the town would engage the owner's project manager to represent the fire department's need and the town's needs. Am I mistaken in this?
No, you're correct. We did agree to that long ago and we never passed that on to them.
The second question is relative to what I just learned earlier, that the library intends to engage counsel. You do understand that the Historic Preservation Commission last week acted as town representatives, and therefore the town will need to engage opposing counsel to represent the Historic Preservation Commission and the town.
I would think that will come later.
It will come when we have the first review of the situation to determine where we go from there.
Right.
I just wanted to be aware that the town has two different parties involved in this. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay.
So Gordon, John out in California and just asked me to ask the select board this question, and it's about the PFAS, so I think we can get that over. The recent study of the underground water at the Battle Avenue site discovered, among other things, the presence of PFAS in the groundwater in excess of the EPA limit for drinking water. We now have unpotable water contaminated with the carcinogen within 50 feet, 500 feet of our drinking water reservoirs. The engineer put forth some possible sources of the PFAS, but was unaware of the Castine Golf Club's use unknowingly of numerous herbicides containing PFAS. This occurred from 2020 through 2023 and probably earlier. This has been documented by the utility board and verified by Alver Associates. What further testing of our aquifer does the select board recommend?
And as I told Josh at the last meeting, we asked him to remand that to the utility board for their recommendation. So that's what we did. We're waiting for their recommendation. Anyone else? The room is full of people, if nobody else. Well, that's absolutely amazing.
It's a slow Monday.
Well, yeah. You got a hand, good.
You do. So the elephant in the room, obviously, is what's occurred over the last couple of weeks, with accusations, newspaper articles, and relationships that have suffered because of it. There were some accusations made against Maine Maritime Academy students. And then the academy as an institution and the entire student body was asked to fix the problem of a select few who have been proven since to not have been misbehaved. So my question is, why are we rushing to judgment? Why are these things getting into the newspaper before they've been investigated? Why are we, as a town, casting dispersions against a 900-person student body when there have been very few incidents that have been either noted or have occurred? I've lived in this town for 25 years. And a full-time year-round resident for 25 years. For 21 of those years, I was not in any way, shape, form, or fashion affiliated with Maine Maritime Academy. Private citizen, and I didn't work for the academy. This is the first time in 5 years as a citizen in this town that I have been disappointed in the town. We have had a very good relationship these last few years since the 2020 thing when the training ship was chased out of town because of noise complaints. This has been the first time in 4 years that we've had any significant issue. The behavior of the students has gotten better and better every year, in my opinion. Okay. If we are going to appoint a special committee to investigate the behavior of Maine Maritime Academy students, why are we not appointing a very special committee to investigate the parking problem down on Perkins Street in the summertime at the office, where you can't even drive a vehicle through there to keep a park support? Why are we not appointing a committee to address why at-the-school students ride down the middle of Court Street every single day on their way to school? Address the individuals, don't address the institution. We have 900 people over here who are doing it right, and a couple that are doing it wrong. You make those people, when you make these accusations and make these statements and get bad press, you have them feel like they are outcasts in this town, like they are not part of this community. We want them to be part of this community.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'd like to just talk about a few things. Thank you, Mac, Citizen Mac. But we've been holding the town and gown meetings, every few weeks. And, I walked away a few weeks ago feeling pretty successful about it. We've been very transparent with the town. and try to answer all the questions. And I think that's the forum when these things happen in the future, to bring them to the town and Gap. In 2 weeks, we planned, weeks ago, before any of this stuff happened, that the state police and Hancock County Sheriff come just to explain what they do in conjunction with the academy at our events, messaging, graduation, you name it. So, I feel our relationship with the town, is from the academy standpoint, is great. We've been doing a great job, I think, being transparent on both sides. The give and take. We've been working through a lot of different things, and I brought some light pictures that Mark hasn't seen yet, so I'll wait till next time on that one. But we're trying to be out and transparent with the town, and with terms of everything, it's the shift. So I applied Captain back for supporting our students, and they were here a few weeks ago talking about the ride share, and I commend those students, Lydia and Piper. The students are trying to do the right thing, so we've got their back, but we've also got a good relationship with the town, and we try and message that to the students all the time. We'll be messaging them next week about Halloween, and trying to be proactive about getting out to putting some folks out to the corners, and just dealing with some of that sort of stuff as well, being good neighbors.
Thank you, great, thank you. Okay. If there's no more questions or comments, yes?
I'm just a little confused about how we're moving forward on the fire station. It sounds like I'm hearing at the last meeting, you're gonna hire another engineer to review these results. Is that no longer now under consideration? We don't have to hire another engineer to tell us what this engineer says, right or not?
That's my opinion, that's my understanding of it, Joe.
Okay,
That we're gonna hire a firm to do preliminary design of the station. And Mark is absolutely right. We did agree that we would hire a project manager, or whatever you want to call it, to work in concert with the engineers developing the plans, so that all of the issues that need to be addressed are addressed.
I'm assuming that the fire department state officers will be meeting with the board of selectmen and any consultants you hire to give their input into what you can need and what you don't need in the new station.
I don't think it could be done any other way. To be done that way.
I'm just not getting it, because it sounds like, with respect to the town manager, he's preparing a request for proposal.
Right.
For design. Who's defining the design? When is that going?
The design will be, as a usual process, the design will be developed by the firm that is hired to do the work. So the input would be that firm talking to whoever they feel is necessary to talk to, in order to get a design that suits the needs of the community, the fire department, everybody else.
And just assume that there would be meetings with the fire department, which would help scope out a design, so that when you put proposals out there, designing a new station for the town, we know what it connects to.
Absolutely.
I'm not seeing that step taken care of. How are we asking the consultant to define it for us?
We ask the consultant to define it for us by talking with the parties that are interested. That's the normal process. I mean, if I were to design a bridge, I wouldn't just go out and design a bridge if I didn't know all the parameters that had to go into it. Obviously, the parameters that have to go in the design of a fire station are the needs of the fire department.
I'm just a little lost in how we go to hire somebody to design work when we haven't defined the scope. And I know a construction manager can help you find less expensive alternatives. But the initial threshold questions have to be answered. Is there gonna be 6 bays or 5 bays? Maybe 4 bays or 3 bays? And then who's gonna define that? Consultant, the contractor who's building it, or the consultant?
And Joe, it will be all of us. That our group would sit down with the engineering, the architect, whoever it is, that it wins the RFP. and we will develop a design together.
So another point is, so we're gonna proceed to hire somebody on design. And that's gonna go simultaneously with evaluating further PFAS issues, either in our existing water district or also the Battle Avenue site. We're gonna start testing for PFAS on the Battle Avenue site.
It had already been tested there. It was tested by the people that did the groundwater flow studies.
So the further testing to be done on PFAS is on our existing wells.
It's on the wells that the consulting firm that did the groundwater testing drilled. They're still there and they're still available.
So those tracks are gonna be proceeded on simultaneously. Design of a new station, follow up on PFAS for wells that have been found to have indications of PFAS in.
What I think I said earlier was that we need the utility board to give us their input as to whether or not we should further study PFAS.
Okay. Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
If I could just jump in for a second, and that is, I have a little experience financing fire stations, and it's a normal process that the engineering firms would work with the fire station to come up with what's ideal for the community. Having said that, each step of the way, we've got to be talking about what this thing's going to cost, because we don't want to get to the end of the line here where the residents vote it down because it's more than people are willing to spend. So I think there's a third element here, that you want to get input from the fire department. We want to get input from the engineering firms, and we want to be talking about cost each step of the way, so it's not a surprise at the end of the project.
And in addition to that, we need to get input from the public as to what the design looks like, because we want this fire station to fit in with the community. And unless we get input from the community during this process, we could end up with something that's really not the right thing for Castine.
Just kind of piggyback on what Mark has said and what Joe had said. If the OPM step is supposed to happen, which I know from previous meetings we talked about that, and I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that the RFP for design firms should be put on hold. It shouldn't go out yet until you get an OPM in that is going to be able to sit down with the fire department and get an idea of scope, and then an engineering firm can work. I just want to make sure that we don't put the cart before the horse and put out an RFP for a design firm and then try and catch up, because I think that there are some concerns that, not in a bad way, that some steps are maybe happening before they should in a sequential order.
Can you explain that?
I can.
Why not, please?
So in construction, an owner's project manager represents the owner being the town of Castine. And what their job is to do is to be the voice of the town and the concerned parties, because they want to make sure that an engineering firm doesn't come in and impose their wants, their needs, their materials, their vendors that may be more expensive, may not be what the fire department wants, may not be what the town wants, and may not be the cost. So the OPM is an unbiased representative of the town, and then coordinates between the interested parties, so that when plans are made, then as the project goes forward, if there are any change orders, things that need to be done, it is the town's interest, not the engineers and then the construction people. So it's kind of a representative for the owner being Castine.
You getting all this there?
Yes and no. I understand it. Right. So I'm just looking, the way I thought this was going to work was we're gonna hire an engineering firm to work on this design in a collateral way, where we have representatives of the fire department, we have representatives of the public and the board of selectmen, and we would iron out those issues and coming up with a plan that we're all agreeable on, and then they would design the fire station based on that. Is how I thought this was working. The project manager is a new step to me that sounds like it's gonna do exactly what we could be doing in conjunction with getting it designed.
Well, I think it will be in conjunction with getting it
Right.
done, but it has to be coordinated so that the project manager has input throughout the process.
All right.
And that's my understanding, and that's the way I've always done it when I had to do it. Somebody got a hand up.
I was just gonna explain, the waterfront project that we're currently doing at the academy, we have an owner's project manager who came in first. We, as an institution, described what we needed for the new waterfront based on what we received from the Maritime Administration for the new ship, what we wanted for the academy to expand our boat basin, and make it usable, all of the things that we needed. Then that owner's project manager worked with the design firm to make sure that they checked all the boxes, because
Right.
we as an institution didn't have the project manager expertise nor the time away from our other jobs to manage the project. So, and we had continued communications with that project manager throughout the entire project. If something comes up that we need to change, we talk to the project manager first, they talk to the design folks and construction folks about how we get it done and how much it's going to cost.
Well, you certainly described it better than I had. So, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know, I just, I feel that's a big step in this whole process. And that's, you're taking the, I think that this is so important and so touchy about putting the firehouse right next to our drinking water pond. Very touchy. I really believe we really should hire another engineering firm to review this engineering firm has come up with. I really believe the amount of money we're gonna spend on this project, if people pass, needs a second opinion. And I know that the back, town manager, we didn't want to listen to that, but that's true, that's how I felt. And that's what, which was originally expressed, by at least one, and maybe two of the select people.
Well, I understand your position, Gus, but what do we do if the next engineer has a different opinion?
Well,
Do they go for a third engineer?
I don't know, but you take it, you want, this is important.
I know it's important. It's
Well,
it's very important to the town to have a fire station.
Really said, one opinion, that's your, it's too important. You know, you build a firehouse and God forbid anything happens, right, to those ponds. Those ponds are sick, they're all interconnected. It's dangerous. And you, and our associate who you hired, all right? And the previous town manager recommended that the person, the engineering firm, he went to our associates to ask, who do we think he should get along, who he wants to work with, all right? That's like, it's like, come on.
It was put out under a.
I know.
For proposal.
And he's back, he went to the two and he called them up to find out who can you, he called our associate and said, who can we work? Who can you, which one of these?
That's not
That's
exactly.
exactly what he said.
Well, that's not exactly what happened.
That's exactly what he said.
Well, he might have said it, but that's not what happened.
Oh, you go.
Well, I'm talking about, because I was involved in the whole process.
Okay, I know, Gordon, I know you were, but that's what was said to the public.
Well,
And it was also said to the public that we would also have second opinion.
well, I don't know who said that.
You don't know who said it?
Do you know who said it?
Dan said it.
Well, Dan said that he has to substantiate that, why he wants that. So this was the board of selectmen say, we don't need another one. And it's the majority rule, Gus, that's how it goes. You know it, you were on the select board for what,
Yes, and
12 years?
Yeah.
9, okay.
12.
Anyway, we're not gonna argue about how many years. But if this town is gonna move ahead and get a fire station, we've gotta do it in an orderly fashion and an expeditious fashion.
Well, Gordon, I'd just like to add one more thing. You had 2 studies, study 1, study 2. Over 3 years, right, to come up with what we have now.
3 years. During those 3 years, not a select person went to any of the meetings with the fire chief. But town manager never, at the meetings. I was told, and everybody sitting in the audience was told, more than once, including by you, that those meetings was open to the public. They were not open to the public. In order to be open to the public, they have to be listed in the Castine paper. Not a one was. Not a one. That Gordon is wrong. I don't think that's illegal.
I understand your opposition to the whole, I understand your opposition to the whole thing.
No, my
But
position is
we're gonna move on.
5 minutes for all.
That's right. We're gonna move on.
I would just like to clarify that our legal requirement for posting meetings to the community is out on that municipal board.
Yes.
What we do is above and beyond the Castine Patriot, the website, now push notifications. We go above and beyond for
You guys-
noticing.
You guys are terrific.
Well, you just said that you thought it was illegal and it's not illegal. Okay, I said my piece.
Thank you.
That's what I'm saying is, we were told at the meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
your objection is noted. Who else? Kate?
I was asked a question earlier before the meeting started, from Mark sitting here, who said, how can we as a community become more involved with the academy? And I just want to put another plug in for the host family program. We currently have more students who have expressed an interest to have families that they've matched up with in Castine, who are willing to have them for dinner, maybe drive them to the grocery store. So please reach out to me or the president's office if you're interested in being paired with a student or others or multiple students.
Thank you, Kate. Johanna?
I feel like I should speak up. I have not lived here for 25 years. I've lived here for 6. I do live right on Battle Avenue and I do business in town. And I have some thoughts about the incident, not just this one, but a few others. It is fairly brief, but I do need to read.
I'm gonna make a statement about the incidents. If you wanna wait, that's fine. If you wanna go ahead, you go ahead.
I'll defer to you.
Okay. I'm gonna read it because I developed it specifically for this meeting. Since our last select board meeting, a community member stated that her young child had experienced 2 concerning events, the select board asked Fire Chief Andy Stearns to investigate, as the vehicle in one of the events had fire service license plates. The results of Mr. Stearns' investigation is that the young person appears to have misinterpreted the situation that was reported. Mr. Stearns was able to identify the vehicle and persons involved, and it turns out that the vehicle was equipped with a dashboard camera, which recorded video, audio, and vehicle speed. Review of the recording from the camera clearly indicates that the vehicle was being operated at an appropriate speed, approximately 22 miles per hour, and that when passing the child on the scooter, the driver moved to the right, leaving more than adequate room for the scooter to pass on the left. The audio recording indicates that the driver acknowledged that he saw the child well in advance of passing him. With respect to the second allegation that the child had been offered cigarettes and beer, the allegation is still under investigation. However, as it was homecoming weekend at Maine Maritime Academy, the assumption that current students were involved is speculation, as both alumni and current students were in town. The person involved might well have been an alumnus, complicating determining the facts of the matter. And when I said in the second part there that it's under further investigation, it's been turned over to the sheriff's department if the people that had a problem with the situation wish to do that. The town of Castine is not an investigatory body, and any investigations beyond what Randy Stearns already turned up is up to law enforcement, not the town of Castine. Now go ahead, Cheryl.
A culture of respect and care includes the awareness that adults should hold young people accountable for their actions. Culture of respect says, we see you making unsafe choices, and because we value your life, we will help you adhere to standards of safety and care. Culture of respect includes the duty of care to stop when you see a young child in distress on the side of the road, regardless of cause. A culture of respect reminds MMA students and alumni that their behavior in public impacts the youngest members of our community. Where we do see respect and a culture of care is on the part of individual community members, including the many wonderful students at MMA. Parents who shows up, who holds their children accountable, every MMA student who stops to help, who works in our local businesses, who volunteers their time, who feels frustrated that their peers are not held accountable. Those are the people whose efforts are severely diminished by the indifferent and frankly self-serving adults in charge. A culture of respect is not what we heard coming out of MMA's administration or out of some of our town leaders. Instead, we see cynical and indifferent responses, and we hear intimidation and dismissal of the experience of community members. It is telling that so many of the adults in the situation and in positions of town leadership move quickly to absolve themselves of any responsibility. No mention was made of the youngest community members. No mention was made as to their well-being. No respect was afforded their experiences or their parents' experiences. And it appears that at least one mother was belittled and her integrity publicly questioned. Let us remember that an MMA student is currently severely injured after crashing a motorcycle. Let us remember that at least 2 calls were made from the Adams School to the Sheriff's Office regarding dangerous driving on the part of MMA students in the last 2 months. Let us remember that we recently lost 4 MMA students as a result of reckless driving. Let us remember that when non-MMA community members raise concerns about student driving, it is because our lived experience is that this behavior of students endangers our lives. And those of us with children are well aware that non-MMA community members, particularly in the summer months, are also irresponsible drivers. That does not absolve MMA of responsibility to care for their own young people or for our community's young people. Speaking now strictly as a mother, I would like our children's safety to be a priority. I would like to live in a culture of care and respect. And to be very blunt, I would like to know and trust that we can speak up and express our concerns and frustrations without being belittled, dismissed, and otherwise bullied, privately or in public forums, including the town bar. Thank you.
Sorry, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Town.
Daniel Murphy.
Okay, please go ahead.
I would just like to say that, I think it's very important that you brought up the entire community. Or that all of us have not only a stake in this, but a responsibility in this. And that going forward, I personally, not speaking for the entire select board, but I personally would like for us to do some outreach and some conversations around this, between the AMA, the community, Adams School, and the community. We can all do better. And I think that we should look at this as an opportunity for all of us to do better together.
With that, and one last thing I will add is that we are at the next school committee meeting, we want to bring back the bicycle and road safety course that for some time was part of the physical education programming, knowing how to navigate safely on any road in any community is tantamount to anybody's life, really. So we very much want to bring that back for all of our school students.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add that in talking with some of the individuals that witnessed or were involved in the incident on Perkins Street, the suggestion was made by them that the video of the whole event be a teaching experience at school. Because the video tells a whole lot about what actually happened. I'll just leave it at that. who's got their hand up. Thank you. Bill.
Yeah, and just, first of all, I think it's fair for all of us to recognize there are more bicycles and scooters on the road today than ever before. And we have adults, grandparents operating them in excess of the speed limit. I've seen it myself. One of the recent issues that came up was supposedly happened at the intersection of Tyler Lane and Court Street. I lived in that intersection. And I took those concerns that people raised seriously, and I know what people did. And so I went out to investigate them, and I talked to my own neighbors about them. And they indicated they had no problem with the way the students were acting at this house that was pointed at. I myself was there walking by at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when when the students were there, because they left like by 3:45. And they were not misbehaving in any way, shape, or form. And my neighbors attested to the same thing. So I think a valid issue came forward. We took good faith, we looked into it. We didn't see it as bad as it was portrayed. In fact, we had information to the contrary, it wasn't as bad as portrayed. I saw it with my own eyes. And when I talked to my own neighbors, and they had no issues with it. But having said that, there's a tremendous amount of room for improvement here. I didn't know living on Court Street that the speed limit was 20 miles an hour, and I lived there 30 years. The reason I didn't know, because there wasn't a sign. I asked to have a sign put up, and thank God that sign helps them. People slow down, zipping up and down Court Street. There's also issues that around 3 o'clock afternoon, 2 o'clock afternoon, when the students are getting out of school. There's a lot of contractors and employees in town who are getting done for the day. And they don't all live on Court Street or Main Street. They live in the outlying town, and they're usually in quite a bit of a hurry to get there. We have contractors who landscape, do business all the time. They race from one job to the next. I've seen it 20 times. We could communicate with their employees and say, could you please ask your employees to drive the speed limit or slower than the speed limit when they leave on the whole town of Castine. But it's not fair just to point to the issue of students. I know people lived here 35 years and they fly by minutes every day. I don't have spoke to them, no. Wait for the ones that drive slow, I don't wait for the ones that. So, but people should know that I know that when you spend a lot of time looking into this, people should know these concerns were taken seriously and looked into. And I'm prepared to accept the fact that college students occasionally can misbehave. I certainly did when I was in college. So we'll leave it at that, but I think we should keep talking about it, and I think the town and gown meetings is the place where this should be raised and addressed on a regular basis. So we can turn to any select board member and say, what's going on with this? And you're empowered to tell us because you've already discussed it with the office of the president and representative. Thank you.
Can I jump in, Gordon?
And please, go ahead.
I mean, to me, I don't want to be pointing fingers at anybody. I think the most important issue is that we step back from the situation, the individual incidents, and we say, you know, how can the school and the town work together to create an atmosphere where people want to comply with the traffic regulations, that we have an aggressive public safety campaign. We come up with slogans. We have some signs in the street. Perhaps we bring some traffic specialists in. I know that speed bumps are not popular, but perhaps there are options that we can do, to help encourage people to slow down. But I think that I think the most important issue is that we step back and say we want to provide a safe environment for our residents, for the students, for tourists, and that it's a commitment across the cross section of the town.
Thank you, Dan. Please.
I'm a little puzzled because I was here for the meeting when a couple of parents talked to the selectmen about this problem. And I think that's a normal way to try to deal with these kinds of problems. And how did it get so out of hand? And what did the town, how could we
Well,
how can we, you know?
it got out of hand when the Bangor Daily News wrote an article that was half true and half false. Okay,
Okay,
so
so
that's how it happened.
so that's abnormal.
I'm not sure it's abnormal for the Bangor Daily News.
Well, but it normally would not have been the Bangor Daily News.
The Bangor Daily News picks up
They picked up from the,
once a week.
yeah,
I understand.
Yeah.
But this seems to have just, you know, gotten way out of hand very quickly, and that normally does not happen.
it had, and, you know, we have met with the parents of one of the children. I have with the town manager. And, they viewed the video. They, I think, saw that there were some problems with the way that the child acted, but there might have been some issues with the way that the driver of the car handled the situation. But seeing the recorded speed that the driver was going, seeing the situation on the road, it appeared that there wasn't really a big issue here, but it has become a big issue. Yes,
Just for my edification, is the town gown group, is that in any way as a town appoint people to join that?
no, it's a meeting between the Board of Selectmen and officials from the Maine Maritime Academy. And it's open to the public.
Yeah, so I certainly agree that, that's a wonderful forum. I do think, for people who are concerned, the select board seems to be the place to voice some of those. I mean, you're our elected body.
Right.
So that seems natural. But I think the bigger issue is that, the academy has a pretty good point. They don't have any power on what happens out of campus. There was some discussion, last week on the funding model. I don't know if in the work session, the select board had any further conversations, but if the town actually wants more law enforcement in town, that actually seems like a town problem, not an MMA.
Well, I think I expressed it maybe last meeting or not then, but the MMA and the town together fund for extra police protection for Castine, the sheriff department. Sometimes we get it, sometimes we don't. It depends upon how much leeway the sheriff's department has in providing it. And for a while there, we were getting very little. Recently, we've gotten significantly more. And with respect to that same weekend that we've been talking about, the homecoming weekend, we did have sheriff's department people in Castine on that day. And I saw them in one instance on Main Street where they had actually taken some people over to the sidewalk and were talking. They were enforcing something, I don't know what it was, but they were in town that day. But I don't think, unless we did want to fund a police department for Castine, we're doing what we can do with the situation that the sheriff's department has. They're offering us as much as they can. And, and it's better than before.
So I guess the question is for people who are concerned, if we want, what's the,
You can call the sheriff's department and make your desires known.
well, from the reading, sorry, at least. How, we said, if I want it, it's just a scheme, is there a dollar?
Yes,
There is, but I don't know if they have the manpower right now to do that.
well, no,
if we wanted to.
if we wanted to get a policeman in Castine. My understanding that the last time we looked at that, which was several years ago, it was in the $200,000 range.
Yeah, because it actually would have to be, Hancock County doesn't have the ability to give us a dedicated one. They won't, so we would have to be, we'd have to buy a cruiser, we'd have to have a person with benefits.
Probably two people.
One of the, yeah, because if you only have one person, then you're really limiting it to 40 hours a week. The other thing that we had talked about, and actually a number of years ago, we had talked with Hancock County to see if we could come up with some housing in Castine. Either no rent or low rent. Unfortunately, at that point in time, most of the deputies that they had over there actually owned their own homes where they were. In fact, Maine Maritime Academy had added proper housing back, it was a number of years ago. They had said, we'll come in a place for somebody to live. I think we're extremely lucky. We have Owen Reed who's living in town. I mean, we'll talk next, but we do have a state trooper who lives in town. So there's.
Well, just so you know, also Karen, like, when we were at the forum last week, the sheriff's department used to require the deputies to live in Hancock County. It's gotten so bad out there that they're now allowing you not to live in Hancock County. And that's not just Hancock County, that's other places.
Yeah.
John,
Did a little bit of homework with the University of Maine and the town of Orono, and also and checking in with Colby College in Waterville. And the University of Maine, under their footprint, their campus footprint includes private property that is not part of their defined campus, because that allows their sworn security officers to go to, for example, private homes if there are parties happening or things that are happening that should not be happening off of the University of Maine footprint. The little bit that I was able to glean from Waterville and Colby is that both the town and the school have sworn law enforcement, and they also do an enormous amount of communication, and the school has and continues to adjust the boundaries that their law enforcement can access. I was not able to find an example of a town with an institution of higher education where the institution of higher education relied solely on the town police force. Every example that I was able to find, it's a sort of a partnership between the college or university and the town.
And those things are probably born out of town and gown meetings. I mean,
They
town and
probably
gown
do.
is unique to Castine. It's what they do in just about every college town there is to try to resolve issues before they become too big of a problem. Because ultimately, like I've been saying, I mentioned at that meeting earlier, as far as I'm concerned, we have one Castine, okay? And the students are also Castine, and the residents are Castine. Our visitors are all Castine. So these are all problems for all of us.
who else, if any? David,
There's one instance, I told resident town, several years ago, on the back shore road, for summertime, basically to its family. But in the school year, was, there was a number of students. I'd love to know what the paperwork is for those students. If that is reviewed by the MMA, to see that there is some reference from for the students, who the owner of the house can call immediately when there is a problem. And indeed, there was a problem just a year ago for this house, when he was called 2 o'clock in the morning about a party at that house. And the upshot was the owner of the house decided to heck with this. I don't want any more students. And the house was put up for sale and it's been sold again. So the ability for the students or the expansiveness for students to get off-site accommodation is obviously recorded on the basis. And I can tell you other incidents on the back hill road itself. One party had a drunkard. They threw him out. And, this was another house. They threw him out. He had a baseball bat in the car. As he drove down the road, he smashed 6 of our mailboxes on the road.
including us. And, the owner of the boss student, so to speak, promised to pay for everything. He did not. And that's all I got to say. President Johnson? The question that I heard embedded in there, does the academy offer any information to people that are renting to students?
Not to my knowledge, I don't check. The students sign a lease, they're considered an off-campus student. They buy a commuter tag and maybe some food pass. But when they're living off campus, it's solely to them.
Okay. I just want to clarify that. Thank you. Last call. Okay, we're moving on. Our next select board.
Select board comments?
Huh?
Select board comments? Yeah.
I thought we were, I thought that where we were.
Sorry.
No,
we were in acknowledgement. Okay. Can I make,
Yeah, I made it, I under the select board.
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, can I make?
You go right ahead,
quick
please.
select board comment?
Please.
Okay. I have two comments. First of all, Doug Cruz and I had, a very productive meeting last week with John Egan from the Genesis Foundation regarding, how we can fund some affordable housing projects in Castine. So we are starting the ball and we'll see where that goes, but it was very exciting. And Castine has been, we have received a grant from, the DECD to go in with Blue Hill and Surrey and Brooksville to, receive a planner for a housing. So that's very exciting as well. So we are moving forward with that. Second of all, thank you all for being here. And I just hope that we will all afford each other a modicum of kindness as we move forward. And lastly, he asked me not to do this, but it had already been ordered. So 6 years ago, Gordon MacArthur became a select board member. And he has done so with incredible grace. He is so calm. He has taught me so much about how to do this. Coming onto the select board, I had no idea how many little details happen every day in this town. But Gordon has been a wonderful mentor and he's been a great select board member, and I'd like to thank him.
And if I can just add my 2 cents, that I have thoroughly enjoyed working with Gordon, and he will be greatly missed.
Bag. Got him a piece of wood.
Very nice. So read the whole thing later on, but appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now that we're almost to the end of the meeting, I will read you the schedule of our next meeting. We have a select board meeting scheduled for Monday, the 11th, November 4th, and Monday, November 18th, both meetings at 4 p.m. At this point, we do not have a formally scheduled town and gown meeting, but I'm going to talk with Susan about scheduling one.
If we do stay on our normal course, which I haven't checked in with them yet, it would be Friday, November 1st, the first Friday of the month, town gown.
Okay.
And I forgot to put that on the list. The other thing is on your list, just a reminder too, because I believe the select board agreed to be at the Wednesday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. meeting here in this building too. So I forgot to put that on there as well. And then one last thing.
Are we going to have a work session on the 28th?
We were gonna wait on a work session.
We were gonna wait on a work session until after the election.
Okay.
That would make sense.
And then the last thing I have for the select board is that we've been asked by the rec committee if the select board members would be willing and available to judge a costume contest for Halloween.
On
And-
Halloween itself?
I believe it is on Halloween, yes, around, you said you would, and I think Dan, I think you're. I think you, I think
I'm
you
all
have,
in. I just have to
So,
decide what I'm gonna wear.
yeah, I think it's good, I think they're doing it here around 5, but I'll confirm the time if you guys are okay with
I'll
that.
just say that I only agreed because there are 3 MMA students doing it, and I'm just probably gonna defer to them, but okay.
Okay.
That's fine. Well, thank you all for being here. And thank you for the round of applause. It's much appreciated.
Motion to adjourn.
Sure. I'll second your motion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Sarah?
Well,
That's fine, we can do it at a, or another day.